आश भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ तत्सत्। We are doing Panchakosha Viveka. So these are these layers of appearance of who we are. We are likely to confuse, to come straight to the point without wasting time. Sometimes we think we are this body, we have this mind, and we have these emotions. We identify with our bodies, we identify with our physical activities, our functions, the pranamaya kosha, then we identify with our emotions, the manomaya kosha. We have refuted up till now the body cannot be the Atma because this body has to have some causality to take shape in this birth, and this body will not continue. So, what happens to all the karmas we have done? How do we enjoy it in the next birth? So, there's something else other than this body which continues. Therefore, this body is rejected as the Atma, which is verily taken very importantly by the Charvakas as the viewpoint, and that is refuted. And the second theory is that the pranamaya kosha, because it's because of the breathing that we are born, we sustain ourselves, we grow up. This whole life without our ability to breathe, without this prana shakti, we cannot sustain ourselves. So let that be the Atma. And there are a few Upanishadic statements how to meditate on the prana shakti as Brahman. And therefore, why shouldn't we accept that as Atma? That was refuted because there are moments when there is prana shakti strong and weak. But does the Atma dance around, become stronger and weaker? No. It is absolutely without any modification and changes. And then we discussed about the Manomaya Kosha. Manomaya Kosha is one, the mind plus all the five Jnanendriyas. All the time, this connects you, Sankalpa Vikalpatmakam Manaha. It connects you with the external world. You say, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? This is beautiful. Your Manomaya Kosha is super active when you enter into a mall or a shop, or you are looking for brides for your daughter, or you're looking for grooms for your sister or daughter, bride for your son. So you are choosy, you're thinking what to do. You're applying for jobs and you get 3 4 appointment letters. You do not know which one to choose. So all these issues are essentially related to the Manamaya Kosha, but that cannot be the Atman. Yes, there is a lot of thinking going on, and it appears as if it has its own consciousness, but it doesn't have consciousness of its own. That we are going to discuss today. And it's all the time fluctuating in nature. One fine day you have very high spirits, the other day we have mild depression, or there's a good feeling. Sometimes we are overwhelmed with bad feelings. Atma is not overwhelmed with bad and good feelings. Manomaya kosha is, and therefore, because it has vikara, because it has a lot of limitations, it cannot be equated as the perfect Sachidananda Swarupa Atma that we have done. And then there is this sloka called the Vijnanamaya Kosha. We're going to the next level. We have already explained in the last class that what is that Vijnanamaya Kosha? Vijnanamaya Kosha is Buddhi plus the five Jnanendriyas. Okay, so now I'm going to say this page, which will allow you to look at the screen. Kalyana Pyushavakya. So here it goes. So now, also Vijnanamaya Swarupaksha Kyanapurvakam Tasyapi Anatmatmam Pradarshayati Lineti. So first it'll tell you about what is the definition, how do we recognize, how do we understand what is the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Remember, Vijnanamaya Kosha is very, very important. Why is it important? 90% of what makes our life fruitful, purposeful, happens in Vijnanamaya Kosha. Because this is antarmukhi, this is deliberative, it is able to make judgments, It differentiates right from wrong. So this Vijnanamaya Kosha is very, very important. However, this Vijnanamaya Kosha is not Atma, even though it may be. And remember, all Vedanta, Vichara, Sadhana, everything is done where it is done. It is done at that Vijnanamaya Kosha only. Now, first, let's understand the Lina Supto Bapur Vodhe. When we are in deep sleep, what happens to our intellect? Is it active? No, it also goes to sleep. So it becomes Lina. It's like you have five, six windows which are open on your laptop, and you just put it to the sleep mode. When you open it, they all come back alive. But during the time that you have folded the laptop, these pages are not available. So your buddhi doesn't become non existent during sleep. However, they become in a sleep state. They become leaner. Supto and Bapur Bodhe. When you wake up, again it gets reactivated. All your Gyanendriyas get reactivated. Your deliberative power also gets activated. During the deep sleep, both manas and buddhi both go to sleep. In the dream state, the manas is active. Sometimes buddhi is also active because buddhi is not so powerfully active with the manas, because otherwise how do you dream? You cannot have, you cannot meet an old friend, you cannot have a good joke, you cannot visit a beautiful garden or a temple. You see all these lovely dreams, no? Or sometimes frightening dreams. It's all because the Manomaya Kosha, the mind is still active during the dream state. But in the deep sleep state, manas and buddhi both go to sleep. Bapur bodhe vyapnuyat a nakhagraga. So, it's pervading all of our existence. Now you are aware of your, whether it's nail points, the front points, from tip to toe, everything. It's spread all across your body mind complex. It's aware of everything. It's supposed to be. And we practice mindfulness. I mean, that's one key area where I would say that Buddhism gives us more detailed advice how to be self-aware, how to make our time more valuable, which we are losing because of these digital distractions. Very good news that Denmark has now banned any entry of digital, gadgets in the schools. They have to go back because the children are losing their power of concentration. All of them are victims of ADD, attention deficit disorder. Many of us are. Now, this Vijnanamaya Kosha is spread all over. And then, so Chaitana, it should be Atma, right? No. Chichaya upeta dhihi na Atma. What we call Chaitanya or consciousness in Western philosophy is associated with the brain. And then they say that is consciousness. But now there are interesting, smart people who are turning to an understanding that consciousness is greater than the functions of the brain. Consciousness exists. There are a lot of videos you can see, and a lot of fairly substantiated evidence which are being given about NDE, near death experiences, when they say consciousness exists even without the body after the person has died. You might challenge that, question it. But a lot of interesting modern physicists are now visualizing a construct or a concept of consciousness which is beyond this physicality. And then Chichaya Upeda Dhir Na Atma. What is this Chichaya? I'll explain in detail, but it will come slowly in more detail as we move forward. But I can give a very simple example to make sense of it. Imagine our school days when the sun is there and the sunlight is falling all over. And then somebody is holding a mirror in his hands. Some of us were very mischievous. We used to go outside the classroom. I don't know whether you did it. So you'll take out that tiny piece of mirror and you'll focus that small, You have those toiletry mirrors of your mothers, small ones. So you try to focus it on the face of a boy or a girl in the classroom for a long distance. You cannot look because the sunlight is falling on his or her eyes. Or you place it on the wall, that part brightens up. The rest of the room is dull. It is also lit up, but through indirect sunlight. This is direct sunlight it goes. What is that mirror? That mirror is a reflector of the original source of light, which is the sun. It's reflecting, it doesn't have any light of its own, but it's a reflector. Now, this word, Chidabhasa, is used to make sense of our mind. They call it Chitvad Abhasate, iti Chidabhasa. It behaves as if it's consciousness. It's not. Pure consciousness is that Param Brahman. We are consciousness, our individual consciousness, each of us, the Chit, is like a tiny mirror. It's a Chidabhasha. And given our own sanskaras and papa punyas, we have different kind of chidabhasas, and we do a lot of yoga sadhana and all to make it transparent. And they say that when we are in deep sleep, that will come in the next verse. That mirror is very clean because it's not tainted, tempered by mental activities. It's very clean, so it nicely reflects the real consciousness. And therefore, we have unlimited amount of happiness experienced in deep sleep. And when we wake up, what we say, I had a wonderful sleep. Ah, it was wonderful. And if we don't get sleep, we go crazy. So every day we need to have its kind of experience of Brahmananda without Brahma Jnana. You are benefiting from your proximity to the Brahman at the level of your consciousness without benefiting fully because you are not aware of it. You have no understanding. So the moment you wake up, you are back to your troubled days or troubling ways of doing things. That is how Vedanta explains it. So how do we make sense of it? This is Chitchaya. Chitchaya means it's a reflection, it's a shadow of that pure consciousness. Upatihi, upetadhihi. So it's without adjunct. It's a certain label which has been put on that pure consciousness. And therefore, it cannot be Atma. Why? Atma is Swayam Prakasha. It's not dependent on anything. The mirror's light is dependent on sunlight. The sunlight is not dependent on anyone else's light. Similarly, the Atma is like a sun which declares itself. It doesn't require a torchlight. Therefore, it's Nirapiksha. This Buddhi's light, ability to understand or anything, is Sapeksha, dependent on an external variable called this Chaitanya, which is reflector. Vijnanamaya Savdabhag, and that particular Chidavasa, the Buddhi, is referred to as Vijnanamaya Pupusha. Buddhi plus 5 Jnanendriyas. This is a word we refer to it. That doesn't make it fully conscious in the pure sense of the term. Now the whole question is, where from this confusion that Vijnanamaya Kosha can be Atma emerges, why should we confuse it? The problem is that in the Taittiriya Upanishad and then in Prashna Upanishad as well, especially in Taittiriya Upanishad 2.5, there is this long discussion, as I was telling you yesterday, between Vrigu and Varuna. Vrigu is a student, Varuna is the one who is imparting knowledge. And there is this sentence in the Upanishad, Tasmad va etasmad manomayad anyontara atma vijnanamayah tenesha punnaha sava esha purusha vidha eva tasya purusha vidhatam अन्वयम पुरुष विदः तस्य श्रद्धा एव शिरः ऋतं दक्षिण पक्षः सत्यम उत्तर पक्षः योग आत्मा महः पृच्छम प्रतिष्ठा. So he's saying that is verily the Atma. Tasmad va etasmad manomayad. So you see, manomaya is kind of receding in importance. Beyond manomaya, there is something called anyantara atma vijnanamaya, is further close, further subtle, further internal. That is called the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Tena esha purna, and everything becomes full and final because of that. The problem is this purnatva is hypothetical. It is definitely superior to Manomaya Kosha, but it is not purna. Sava esha purusha vidha eva, and that is what you should understand as the purusha, the self. Tasya purusha vidhatam anvayam purusha vidaha tasya shraddha eva shira. What is the head? Faith. Because you know you make a decision and you abide by it, you make a deliberation. And Ritam Dakshina Pakhya, the universal harmony, the truth, which binds all of us, that is the right side. Satyam Uttara Pakhya, and Dakshina Pakhya and Uttara Pakhya, and south and north side. Yoga Atma, you can call it the heart, you can call it yoga is, it's very metaphorical. Don't try to make sense of it in literal sense. Yoga Atma Maha Pricham Pratishtha, what supports it? That is Maha. Om Bhur Bhuva Swa Maha. We are talking about Mahaloka, Maha. That is the foundation of this. Okay, so I have a statement. Why shouldn't it be Atma then? Why are you discouraging me? Let me stop here and relax. The Acharya, Sankara Bhashya, when mentioning it, is saying, Vijnanamaya Koshaha Buddhi Ahankara Rupaha. This Vijnanamaya Kosha has two elements: cognition, cognitive function, but there is Ahankara together. Okay? So, Manas and Chitta Buddhi Manonkara. Okay? So, these two, if you look at it in the intermediate level thing, the mind is vacillating, the Manas. Manas and we say Chitta Chanchalya. Chitta. And Buddhi and Ahankara are more deliberative, more internally oriented. Esa Ninnaya Pradhanaha Jnana Karanam. This particular Manomaya Kosha is Ninnaya Pradhana. Right? So, Nishchayatmika Buddhi, it's always oriented towards deciding what is right. Ninnaya Pradhanaha is the one who takes the final decision, the CEO of the whole system. Na Atma, however, this is not the self. Why so? Please explain. Shankaracharya says, Bhagavan Shankaracharya, Karanatvad, Vikaritvad, Drishyatvad, three reasons. Because look here, Karanatvad, this buddhi is also an instrumentality to know and understand and decide on things. And the mind works. Behind it, you have this buddhi giving the backup, analyzing the data. And then vikaritvad, the buddhi, we sometimes say drishyatvad. There are two aspects. The buddhi or the intellect is not stable, not fixed. We're changing our opinions, isn't it? I remember there was a beautiful joke about Nehru. Somebody challenged him in the parliament long back. Then he says that you are changing your opinion every day. How do we deal with you? Thank God he wasn't like one of the most powerful persons on earth today. I'm not taking any names, the President of the United States. But Nehru did change his names and he was challenged. You are changing your opinions over different periods of time, over years. And Nehru smiled and he said, consistency is the virtue of a donkey, of an ass. He's reportedly said that it's better to evolve, not stay fixated on one idea, one decision. Good. Got to be flexible. But this flexibility is the strength, but it gives us a character that it is changeable. It is transient. It's not full and final. So what is it? Vikaritvat. It is vikaravan. There are modifications going on. Atma doesn't have any vikara. Vikara shunya, nirvikara. It's beyond all modifications. Therefore, buddhi cannot be Atma. Beautifully refuted. Then drishyatvat. You see, drik eva Atma. The rest is drishya. Whatever you see is false. Whatever we see is vishayataya drishta. We see it as an object of our knowing. So the knower is different. The Atma should be in the category of the knower, not in the category of the known. So it is drishya. How buddhi becomes drishya? Buddhi ke madhyam se we know everything. With our intellect we know. How can you say intellect is something that is an object of our knowledge? Shankaracharya smiles and he'll explain, yeah, yeah. Don't you remember many times you write in your journal, I was not in the right state of mind, decision was wrong, my intellect was not firmly established in the truth. You write all that. Who gives you that wisdom to write that sentence? So there must be something with the help of some superior truth in you. You are able to externalize your intellect as an object of your knowing, right? And therefore, it cannot be Atma. Now, this interesting thing that to begin with, that there are two specific qualities of this buddhi. Supto lina. So during sleep, it becomes invisible. Jagrati sarvadeha vyaptitvam, where it, bapur buddhe. And then when you wake up, it spreads all across. It makes sense of everything. It becomes the CEO. Aham janami, aham karomi. Then you have this kartutva jnana. I am knowing, I am doing it. You have that self awareness. Okay? And in the causal state, when it's sleeping, it doesn't know anything. Na kinchidapi vishesha jnanam prakashayati. It's not able to. Can you say you are sleeping when you're asleep? When you wake up, you say, I had a good sleep. Buddhi is not there during sleep. It remembers the experience of the sleep. And who was the experiencer? Not the Buddhi, because it wasn't there. There must be somebody else who experienced it, and that is what we are going to point at as the Sakshi Chaitanya will go there. So, Buddheya laya vyapti parimanadi dharmaha. So, of these buddhi, we have laya and vyapti. Laya during susupti, vyapti during jagrata avastha, and then different kinds of parivartanas or parinamas, vikaras. Therefore, it atmatva is refuted, not defensible. So it's true that this vijnanamaya kosha, manomaya koshat adhika samipastaha. This is definitely nearer to the self, subtler, more powerful, superior, no doubt about it. However, and not only that, the karta, bhokta, buddhi we have, what is the foundation of that? The buddhi. It's very powerful, it's very subtle. Yet, this is also in the drishya varga because you are able to, there is the real experience in us in the vipassana meditation. Those of you have ever joined this goenka, of course now I'm hearing that there's a bit of chastisement. They make a lot of statements against all other faiths and therefore people are losing interest. But that's a feedback. I haven't attended any program, but the training is samatha is essentially a practice of initial practice of concentration to bring it to some quietude, and vipassana is observing all your thoughts, and that continues. They do a 100 hours program, and that gives you the real freedom. It's not by repeating a mantra you can quickly ascend to a high level of equanimity. However, that cannot be sustained beyond that yoga prakriya. Whereas in Buddhism, it doesn't give you concentration, it gives you wisdom. What wisdom? You start seeing the whole reality of your thoughts and all functionalities as transitory, as coming and going, and therefore unreal. What is real is beyond all that. They refer to as, some people will say alaya vijnana, some people will refer to as the atma word they avoid because for swarupata nothing exists. But broadly, what they call shunya, we call punya. They are our cousins. I personally think that as Vedantists, we need to give equal attention to Buddhism. I got no problems. In fact, they are the ones who have worked on the details of how the consciousness gets modified. So, from sadhana point of view, Buddhism is very useful. So, yadyapi vijnanamaya kosha manamaya koshat adhika samipastha kartutva bhaktritva adhyasasya mukhya adharah, that is the foundation for all this, that I am karta, I am bhokta, tatapi sapi drishyatvad parivartanashilatvad chaitanya pratibimba adhina prakasatvad atma na bhavati. It's like that broken piece of mirror through which you are reflecting that pure consciousness, to see and understand the world. However, that doesn't give us the license to call. That one is Atma. That is briefly the refutation, and I do not want further into the details. Uh, there are a few Upanishadic statements because of which this confusion arises. Voyong Vijnanamaya Praneshu Hridyantara Jyotihi Purusha. That is the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 437. It gives you Vijnanamaya Purusha. However, in the commentary, Shankaracharya makes it very clear, Na Paramatma, Karanatva, Drishyatva, Jadatva. It's also Jada Varga. Why? This broken mirror is not conscious. It's not actually source of light. It's without any light. In a dark room, you keep that mirror, it's not going to give you any light. Only when there is some light, it can reflect. Atma tu drashta sakshi, swayam jyoti swarupaha. Atma is swayam jyoti swarupaha. Therefore, we will go there slowly. And then, the Vijnanamaya Kosha is also not the final thing. It's also is having certain limitations. How do you know that? Somebody might say. Because in the next verse, 2.6 of the Taittiriya Upanishad, the statement goes like this: Tasmad va etasmad vijnanamayad anyontara atma anandamayaha tena isha purna. He says, no, but there is a level superior to the Vijnanamaya Kosha. It's called the Anandamaya Kosha. Tasmad va etasmad vijnanamayad. From this Vijnanamaya Kosha, there is a superior reality of a consciousness. And what is it? Anyo antara, different from it and further closer to the self. Atma anandamayaha, antaratma. There is a visheshana adjective added to the word atma, antaratma. That means what? It is not pure atma. There is certain definitive quality added to it. It's more internal. That doesn't give it the quality to become pratyagatma. Anandamaya kosha is not yet pratyagatma. We will understand that, how it happens. Therefore, we are now refuting summarily, and I'll just run through it because we have already explained that. I'll quickly run through it. These commentaries are a little dense, and I'm just not trying to rush through it because as we slowly move, we perhaps understand it better. Ya chichaya upeta dhihi chichaya pratibimba tena upeta. What is that buddhi? Is chidabhasha. Pratibimba tenopeta dhir buddhi nishchayatmika. This buddhi is by nature. This is the Kalyana Piyusha Vaksha. Sa buddhi supto lina layam gata. During deep sleep, it goes into the mode of sleep. Bodhe jagrat avasthayam anakhagraga nakhanamagrani cha avivyapya gachyati tatha bhuta bapuhu sarinam vyapniyat. How does it take a shape? It spreads all over the body-mind complex when we wake up, and even the external reality. And that is the nature of this buddhi. Sadhir vijnanamaya savdabhak bhavati. That particular thing or buddhi is referred to here. Buddhi will include all the jnanendriyas. It's called the vijnanamaya kosha. Apitu sa atma na bhavati. No, it cannot be atma. Why so? Vijnanam jagyam tanute karmani tanute piche. In Taittiriya Upanishad 2.5, it says Vijnanam Yagyam Tanute. So, you do everything, all the activities, whatever happens, is with the help of the Vijnanamaya Kosha. There's no doubt about it. But that itself makes it different from Atma, which is Nishkriya, Nirvikara, Suddha, Buddha, Mukta, Svabhava. This directly engages with a lot of things. Ityadi uktaritya kartutva bhimani vijnanamayaha karmani acharati. This vijnanamaya kosha is not Atma. It does a lot of things. Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita, Atma doesn't do anything. Atma doesn't get touched. Padma patram imam bhasa. It says so many words. But this one is getting engaged. Engagement is strength. But engagement is what? Disqualifies buddhi to become Atma. Tat phalanubhavartham dehantar papnoti cha, and then you do a lot of good karmas. Then you will have a beautiful body, more intellectual mind. You will be born in a very auspicious family. Sriman, dhimatam, Srimatam gehe. If you do a lot of sadhana, if you get a rich father, May give you a lot of money, but if somebody who is a debauch, are you going to have a very peaceful life? No, you won't. So he'll give you a good set of parents, but remember one beautiful thing in our whole karma siddhanta is that these past karmas are not a bondage. They just give us a contextuality. They just give a contextuality. And I'm seeing wonderful results of what others might consider constraints. Depends on actually what punya he had. I met a guy who's barely 21 at Rameshwar, and he has been living on the railway tracks for 2 years. After that, he set up his business. And he said, I don't have anyone. I said, why so? He said, my mother and father, they split when I was 1 year old, and my grandma took care of me. My mother got remarried. He has two children. My father got remarried. He has two children. I don't belong to anyone. So I said, okay, the biological parents have abandoned me. So somebody said, why don't you connect with the real parents? And who are they? Then I found out Lord Shiva is the dad of all. Ma Parvati, Ma Kali, she is the mother of all. So now I'm connected with my real parents. And therefore, that guy does a lot of puja and meditation. He's very peaceful. I was amazed by his understanding. He has no guru, he has not studied in Vedanta, but sheer life of hardship. So God wanted him to have that spiritual ascension. So what we see as negative in our lives because of so-called past karmas could be actually very positive impulses God has provided us with that we are not appropriating, we are not utilizing to lift ourselves up. In Christianity, there's a beautiful explanation. God creates pain because he wants to educate us to go closer to him. Some other people might criticize it, but there are ways in which we can have an understanding of what is given is not a finality. It's not going to make us path dependent in the manner we fear it does. It gives us a context, and that context is not a final signature on what we are going to achieve in this life. Our fate doesn't determine our future. There is a fate, it doesn't determine our future. Like, for example, a physics student will say this whole earth is going to go bust after a few million years. True. Within that, we have a lot of freedom to pursue our ends. Coming back here, because that was important for me to mention that it goes to have Dehandar Papnoti ja Vijnanamayasya Janma Karanatvam Punyovi Punyeno Karmana Bhavati Papaha Papena Vrihad Upanishad 4:4-5. Our past papas explain why we have temptation for papa. Our past punyas explain why we have temptation for punya. What is the trick here? Do a little punya, do a little sadhana, do a little meditation, show a little love, show a little respect, and you see what unfolds within us. Negativity is important. There was a beautiful sentence by Emerson, long back, decades back, I read. He said somewhere that all the while I was looking at my shadow and I was scared of it until I turned back and saw the light. You are there, you're looking at your own shadow and you are angry and you're sad. When you turn back, you're looking at light. If you don't look at light, you see your own shadow. And that's what our life is all about all the time. So he said, Vijnanamesha Janma Karanatam Punyovi Punyena Karmana Bhavati Papaha Papena Iti Sutya Avagamyate. Therefore, the Vijnanamaya Kosha does things to get a new body, do new experiments. Vyaparado Krutanishayataya Krutanishayata Manasaha Sthiti Hetutvam. And then all the activities the mind does, what gives you that balancing force is the buddhi. Yuddhado Maranakaranatam Chadrishtam, and then you take a wrong decision and then you can get killed in a war. With your decision, you get into the war and then pay a heavy price. Auto Vijnanamayasya Atmatvam Vasanam. There is this temptation to get a confusion that Vijnanamaya Kosha Mevi Atma. Tathapi Tasya Laya Swabhavat Na Atmatvam. But what gets terminated for a while? Can he be the real CEO? Can he be the real boss? A guy who vanishes from the office for a few weeks, every few months. Is anybody going to tolerate his presence? No. So it's there, it has a lot of powers, it doesn't have that continuity that we understand, associate with what is the Atma Tattva, that is Nitya. Because it's not continuous, in that sense, it becomes Anitya. Whatever Anitya, refutable. एतत्सूचितं लीना सुप्तौ इति विशेषणेन बोध्यम इति बोध्यम. Therefore, Leena Supto, why did I write this? The Lekhaka, the writer, indicates, the commentator says, Leena Supto word is used in order to show that this cannot be the Atma. Done. We are now done with 4 courses. Now there's a bit of discussion. How is Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, both are different? And the difference is very simple. The difference between a teenager boy and a guy who is 30. They think differently. A boy who's already in a job and he's trying to invest, do things. And then you have this teenage boy or even a younger boy who wants to buy anything he sees in the mall and troubles the parents. Mama, I want this, I want that. Manomaya Kosha. She's good looking. That guy is very powerful. He's a nice guy, going to help me. Manomaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Kosha is deliberative. It's judgmental in a positive sense. It all the time thinks and analyzes. So what are the difference? First, he will explain us the distinction, in case we have any, to lift us to the next level of discussion about the Anandamaya Kosha. That's the first final leg, beyond which we'll have a discussion about the Atma. Manomaya Vijnanamaya Koshayoho Swarupa Bhedam Aha Kartriti. So he's saying, okay, I need to have some understanding about what is the Swarupa Bheda. How do I distinguish them? Both are appearing to be consciousness. Both are Chaitanya Swarupa. That is the confusion I have. What is the finer distinction? He's saying in the verse number 8, Kartutva Karanatpabhyam Vikriyetantarin Tarindriyam Vijnana Manasi Antar Bahishye Parashparam. The basic distinction is inwardliness and outwardliness. The manas is all the time outwardly, connecting with external reality, and then feeling temptation. This one be mine, that one be mine. Buddhi makes a judgment, is deliberative, it's inward. Vijnana Manasi, the Vijnanamaya Kosha and the Manas. Andara Vahihi Cha Iti. One is internally oriented, the other one is externally oriented. And what is the other difference? Kartutva Karnatva Vyam. One is Karta, I am doing it, I am thinking. When you're getting attracted, this mind is just an instrument for you to feel tempted. There is no self awareness. That is how all the mistakes are committed by us when we are overtly emotional. And that's why all our mentors or the coaches in the workplaces will advise, when you are upset, should you respond to a mail which disheartens you? No, just don't reply. Write the harsh reply, don't send it. Send it tomorrow, wait for 2 or 2. Then you edit it at night, you'll become more normal. And then the counselors tell us, when you are too upset or angry, why don't you count 10 or just avoid responding? Because in an emotional state, you perhaps are not best equipped to allow the Vijnanamaya Kosha to do its work. It's the Manomaya Kosha which is taken over the whole body-mind complex. Relax, it's going to make a mistake. Then Vikriyeta Antar Indriyam. So there is this Manabuddhis and all, right? These modifications are going on. And there are different levels. Before we go into that, I'll make a few more statements about it. Both Vijnanamaya Kosha and the Manomaya Kosha are called internal sense organs. Antarindriyam Vijnana Manasi. Kartutva Karnatvabhyam Vikriyeta. One is Karta, the other one is a Karana, instrumentality. Ete Paraswaram Andarvahishya Pravartate. One works in the real boardroom to take decisions. The other one is the one which is talking about the outputs. Okay. Now, what he's trying to say here is that both are actually subtle. Both Vijnanamaya Kosha and Manamaya Kosha are subtle. But even there, subtler differences there. Okay. So Antakarana Samasti means you have the Jnanendriyas plus Manas is the Manamaya Kosha, the Jnanendriyas plus the Buddhi is the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Even though it's one, the Antakarana is one, you can make a qualitative distinction between what is Vijnanamaya Kosha and what is, both in English are mind only. Manamaya Kosha, emotional mind, deliberative mind, they don't use it generally in the Western parlance. He's saying that the modifications of the Manamaya Kosha is an instrument of different kind of experiences and emotions, whereas in Vijnanamaya Kosha, it's the pravriti, the modification that happens. These modifications are with regard to the ahankara taking a lot of distinction. What are the what in what form it appears? I'm going to do this. This one has been done. The next one is still awaiting my attention. Different language, different way the mind functions. So when this antakarana कर्णत्वेन संकल्पः विकल्पात्मकत्वेन विषयान् बहिर्मुखतया गृहीत्वा प्रवर्तते तदा तत् मनमयो कोशः इति उच्यते. When this same antakarana, buddhi is also antakarana, mana buddhi, chitta ahankara together four are the antakarana, internal organs. When this same mind or the internal organ, it is doing sankalpa vikalpa, this and that, and vishayan bahirmukhataya grihitva, then it connects with the external objects of sense perception, pravartate, it becomes active. Tadatat manomaya kosha, the same mind is called the emotional mind, a manomaya kosha. Iti uchyate. And what is it? What is its nature of functionality? Bahirmukhi, vishayabhimukhi, raga, dveshadi, sanyuktacha. So first thing is externally oriented. Then all the time connected with some kind of an object. It wants to have something, some experience, something that. It doesn't have to be material. It can be non-material also. Like it's raining, it's a cloudy day, you want to lie down on your bed and you want to fantasize or dream or remember childhood. All games of Manomaya Kosha. Vishayabhimukhi, there are subtle Vishayas. Raga, Dvesadi, Sayukta. And there are some cognitive activities, some cognitive nature to it. There is some emotionality associated with it. And then suddenly there's a modification. Yadatu tadeva antagaranam kartutva vimana yuktam. Then it has this karta bhava, same mind. I comes in. The abhimana comes in. Then it has nirnaya rupam. It has that deliberativeness. Aham karta, aham jnata iti ahankara adhisthita buddhi rupena pravartate tadatad vijnanamaya kosha iti gachyate. And then same thing, it becomes what? I'm the doer, I'm the knower. It has this kind of a modification, this kind of a manifestation. Then we call it vijnanamaya kosha. Fine. What is interesting is that Vijnanamaya Kosha and the Manamaya Kosha, this only in one platform where they operate is called Antakarana. However, given their orientation, externality or internality as the key words associated with them, they do different things. It's like you have a marketing department, you have an advertising department, you have a finance department, you have a chief operating officer. They are all part of the company. They are all in the boardroom. They are doing different kind of activities. Therefore, he's saying Antakarana is one. So the Veda is not that Manamaya Kosha is a different kind of material reality or a subtle reality and Vijnanamaya Kosha is different. He's saying same Antakarana, depending on its functionality, is called Manamaya Kosha or the Vijnanamaya Kosha. I hope it makes sense. Depending on its functional modification of the Antakarana, we identify one functionality being active as a Manamaya Kosha, another mode of functionality being active as Buddhi or the intellect being active. Now, both Manamaya Kosha and Vijnanamaya Kosha, both are drishya, not trik. Because we say, Mera man acha nahi hai. My mind isn't good. I'm in a depressed state. I have blues. Get out of my room. I want to be alone. You say this to your children. You say this to your wife. You say this to your colleagues. Give me some private time. right? And sometimes you're doing something serious work, you're working on a project, you don't want to be disturbed. You are in a different zone altogether. You will forget what you love most, your cup of coffee is there, you're not being able to look at it. Manomaya course ordered it. Vijnanamaya course is busy working on the project. So essentially modification of the same mind depending on its orientedness. Because it is drishya, there is a self which is able to describe them, therefore it cannot be Atma. Nayam Atma Manasa Vidhyava iti. Because in Kathopanishad, Manayava Manushanam Karana Bandha Mukhya, we did that yesterday. Kathopanishad is saying Avang Manasogochara. You cannot see the Atma through your mind, or you cannot spell it out with your words. So it's beyond. And in Drigdrishya Viveka Sankaracharya, again and again he's saying, Drishyam, Drig Atma, not Drishyam. Whatever you see, that's not Atma. Atma is Drik, the perceiver, the eternal perceiver, that Shakshi Chaitanya, the witness self. Okay? So this is how we again have refuted, both summarily we have refuted this. Then let's run through this commentary very quickly. Antarindriya, Antarindriyam, Antakaranam, Kartutva Karunatabhyam, Asadharana Karanam Karanam. In Nyaya Bhasa, what is Karana? It's called Asadhara Karanam Karanam. Karana means not instrument here. It's the most important cause in Nyaya Bhasa. Kartutva Karanatva Tasya Bhava Karanatvam Tasya Bhava Karanatvam Tabhyam Vikriyeta Viparyeti. It goes on modifying itself depending on the functionality. Is Manamya Koshar Vijnanamaya. Kimidam Patyam Apatyam Ba iti Prathame Mano Vimrishati. You see something somebody offers. You have gone to a friend's house. You don't have a very good stomach, and then he gives you some pudding and then some a fruit salad or something with cream and butter and things like that. You're looking at it twice. He said, "It's good for you." You're asking, "Should I take it? Is my stomach going to take it, or I'm going to have problem at night?" Gunadosha vimarshantaram na mama idam patyamiti acharaniyam. And then the mind decides, no, no, this is not my patya. I will not do it. I will not take it. Yagyam aham tanomi ityadi swakartabhya akartabhyatam nishchitya acharati karta vijnanamaya. Now, you want to do a yajna? Somebody gives a proposal. Yes, I will do it. Sometimes, no, 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 I have office work. That's not possible. No, maybe some other time. We'll look at some other day we have a holiday. So all these is doing that Vijnanamaya Kosha. Evam Vimarsha Nishchayatmaga Vrittibhyam. One is Vimarsha, fluctuating mind. Of course, in Kashmiri Sufism, as we have discussed, Prakasha and Vimarsha are two different words, have different meanings. Prakasha is that pure consciousness. Vimarsha is that brings in that self-awareness element to it. Prakasha and Vimarsha cannot distinctly live without each other. One is Shiva principle, the other one is Shakti principle, Prakash and Vimarsha. We are not going in that direction. Here, Vimarsha is literally referring to Sankalpas and Vikalpas that we do. Vimarsha Nishchayatmaga Vritti Vyam Kartutvam Karanatvam Cha Apanam Andagaranam Viparyeti. All kinds of modifications happens, either that this is going to cause all kinds of Indriya Vrittis when the mind is involved, and then that is Vijnanamaya Kosha is the one who is going to take decisions. Evam kartuhu kartavyartha nishya gunadosha vimarshane sadhanavadasya manasaha purvavrittitva tasya karanatvam. Because before you do anything, it's the mind which decides you want to do this, right or wrong, anything. There are judgments, sometimes without the judgments also do, and why the mind is the karana. Because Indriyas are there. Yeah, there's a rasgulla, and whether you want to eat it or not. First, without the mind, there's someone is playing a beautiful music and you're asleep. Your indriyas are there. There's no connection. You're not in a good mood. Somebody's offering something you love. You don't accept. So that becomes its karanatvam. Ete karta karano vijnana manasiti uchyate. They are referred to as vijnanamaya kosha and manomaya kosha. Ete paraswaram antarvahi bhavena vartate ubhayor ataha bhinna koshatvam iti bhavaha. Therefore, they are distinctly called as bhinna koshas. Okay, done. Airtel. Let's do one more. Then we will now go to the Anandamaya Kosha. Let's look at the verse number 9. These are a little dense ones, and therefore I'm not pushing. Let's do it. I hope we have 10 minutes. We're going to finish it. काचित् अंतर्मुखा वृत्तिरानंद प्रतिबिंब भाग पुण्य भोगे भोग शांतौ निद्रा रूपेण लीयते. Then he's saying samprati anandamaya koshasya anatmatvam vivakshaya tasya surupamaha. What is that anandamaya kosha, and is it atma? Can we relate to it as atma? Therefore he's saying kachid antarmukha vrittihi. So there is some kind of a internal vikara, some kind of a modification of this consciousness. Kachid, antaramukha vrittihi. And that becomes its ananda prativimba bhak. Ananda here refers to that pure atma, Chaitanya Swarupa. And when the mind is completely silent, when you are in a perfect state of meditation, forget about the Anandamaya Kosha, deep sleep state, but in perfect meditation as well, you have great sense of limitless happiness. It's because the mind is free from all modifications, becomes a perfect, beautiful mirror which reflects that pure light of the self. But remember, that happiness is independent or dependent. Ask, even in deep sleep state, the happiness you are getting is dependent on the fact that all the dirt is removed and then the light is falling on it. So it is sapeksha. It's not nirapeksha. It becomes nirapeksha, it will become atma. But the purpose is to explain that even in deep sleep, equanimity, the peace, the happiness that we experience is conditioned. It's conditional. But it doesn't have the conditions of the buddhi or the manamaya kosha. No. A child is given something, so it's happy. The anandamaya kosha, it is dependent on the reflection of the atma in that particular platform. It's avidyavrti, that Sakshi Chaitanya. That is why we are getting that happiness. Kajit antarmukha vrittir ananda pratibimba bhag. And that is why it's called Anandamaya Kosha. Ananda Pratibimba is a reflection of that Atma, that Anandamaya Kosha, we call it. Punya Bhoge Bhoga Santo. Nidra Rupena Liyate. And then this Anandamaya Kosha, is it uninterrupted? No. In deep sleep state, when all these vrittis of the mind becomes nullified, they go to the sleep mode, then this particular reflection of the ananda is what gives us a sense of happiness. We remember it as we wake up. So there is this vritti or modification. Vritti is always modification, some kind of vikara. What is it? Antaramukha vritti. It has nothing to do with any external objects. You're not eating rasgullas, you're not with your best friend, you're not in your best house. Yet when you fall asleep, even in a very crowded train in India, or in a very crowded airport, anywhere in the world, if you fall asleep, you have a sense of peace and happiness. Antaramukha ananda pratibimba bhak. Therefore, it is referred to as that anandamaya kosha. Sa punya bhoge bhoga santo nidra rupena liyate. Punya bhoge. I mean, even to get that peaceful sleep, you must have done some good activities. Otherwise, people say people who are indulging a lot of negative activities usually miss out on very good sleep. Antarmukha, bahirvishamukha kachit vrittihi. Now, the summary is like this. We'll go to the Kalyana Purusha Vakya. So, what he's trying to say is, you have all the Vishayakara vrittis, modifications imitating the external objects you want to have. When there is an imbrity of them, mind is dissociated from the external realities or the internal decision making process is doing, it becomes antapravritaha. It becomes internal oriented, no activities. There is a modification. There is avidya vritti. And that is what Brahmanandasya pratibimba matram anubhavati. That Brahman gets reflected. You have Brahmananda in deep sleep, but no Brahma Jnana, therefore no liberation. However, you have access to that happiness. However, that Anandamaya Kosha, that deep sleep state, is not in itself Ananda Swarupa. First of all, why? It's anitya. After some time, your sleep is going to break. And this particular antarmukha vrittihi, punyo bhoge, you have sukritajanya phalanubhava kale bhoga santa yaha yada vishya prasamyati nidra rupena liyate karanavasthayam pravishati. It goes into that causal mode. You have done some good activities, people clapped, you gave a good speech, or you had a bad day, you were playing a cricket match as a club, and with some friends of yours, you got out for a duck, and they remember you as a very classy batsman during your university days, you feel very bad. Or you want to try football, you go to play football with your friends in an alumni meet. What happens is kick the ball once, and then you actually strain your knees. Old age. What happens? At the end of the day, night, you're going to go to sleep, and then you have this Anandamaya Kosha which gets activated when everything else gets deactivated. And then, however, it's different from Atma because Atma is na kadachitapi vritti rupena utpatyate valiyate. Neither it gets activated as a vikara, as a modification, nor liyate, nor it gets terminated as a process. It's not a process. The Anandamaya Kosha is still a process. It's a processual reality. Atma is not. Atma doesn't undergo any changes. This is saying it's true that when we wake up, susutto aham sukham aswapsam, I had a wonderful sleep. Iti pratyavamarshah drishyate. We wake up and say, tathapi shaha anandamaya kosha vrittehe pratyavamarshah na brahmanandasya sakya. You're not directly explaining Brahmananda that one Jivanamukta Purusha will have. Okay. And then you are just have that temporary experience of happiness. Now the tika is long, and even if I start, I'll not be able to finish it. But we have made sense of it as to why the Anandamaya Kosha cannot be Atma. I can do one thing. Instead of getting into the commentary, I just want to summarize it. Remember, again, this particular thing, this Anandamaya Kosha, is also ultimately not Atma. Okay, and that will be explained in the next verse, in the verse number 10. So we will look at it and absolutely not have problem, and we'll take it up in our next class. We'll stop here and not rush through it because this is a very dense paragraph, and this is it's a little substantive, so we need not push through it. We'll continue in our next class. So I'll do the Santi mantras. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat. So I have ended it.